Good evening, everyone. So I felt like making this video to kind of give an idea of some quick little maintenance thing that you can do. It takes some time, but it is completely worth it. If you have an older engine that is burning a little bit of oil, especially when idling, this is something that can help. I did this on my 1995 Cherokee, about 6 months ago. It stopped my oil usage completely. This right here is my 1987 Wrangler YJ with the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. So these little guys over here, this is the valve seal. Okay, so you have little valves that go up and down, and they have a seal that keeps oil from going down into your cylinder. These don't look too bad. They still look like they have some life left, but I'm getting some oil usage and I wanted to see if this was it, so I figured I might as well go ahead and do it. I've already replaced 1, 2, 3. I'm giving you guys this one because it's the best shot that I can get for you without a tripod. Very first thing you want to do is remove your spark plug, which is this little guy. It's got a little soot on it, so I've got some other issues as far as running right. But the spark plug goes right back there on this engine, okay? What we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying air pressure to it, okay? So we're going to take this hose right here. I have removed the valve seat out of it, and this is for a compression tester, okay? I'm going to take this end right here and put it in the spark plug hole just right back here. Bit of an odd angle, so it just takes me a little bit to get in there. There we go. Feels like it's threading. You don't want to use any tools or anything like that because you can easily cross thread, and that's never a good thing. Cross threading your block is quite bad. That's a trip to a machine shop, and I am not a machine shop, so I can't do that. There we go. Now you want to take this down until it is completely snug, okay? So I'm going to be able to take it and turn it just with the rubber and put it in there nice and tight. I'm going to use an air hose set to 90 PSI. I'm going to hook it to that. Okay, I'm not going to do that just yet. I want to go ahead and get these rockers off. And I want to take the rocker arms out. And then I'm going to use another tool to take the actual seats off, which takes the spring off. And you'll be able to see those here in just a second. So this top screw right here, top bolt is a 1/2-inch bolt on this 1987 YJ 2.5 liter. All of these are 1/2-inch bolts. So we're just gonna use a 1/2-inch wrench and take those two out. They are pretty snug, so they will take a little bit of force, but we'll get those out pretty easily. And we'll set you over here. It's the best shot I can get, but I hope to educate some people that some of these things may not be quite as hard as you think. Go. Perfect. All right, so at some point in this, because I am using compressed air, my air compressor is going to turn on. It is very, very loud, and I apologize for that, but it's necessary, and at that time, I will actually not say a word because you won't be able to hear me. So first things first, we're going to take those two nuts out that holds the rocker arms on. One, loosen up. 2, loosen up. And at this point, they are loose enough, I can just take the extension off and wham bam, thank you ma'am. I'm gonna loosen these all the way up completely and get them out of the way. As you can see, it kind of lifts up as we're going through this process, and that's because of the tension of the springs. Those springs keep those valves up. And the reason why you have to use the compressed air is because we're taking those springs off. Now, when you take these off, leave them in their orientation, okay? Take them off like this, and then we're gonna come over here and I'm gonna set them down into my magnetic tray that keeps everything together in the same orientation. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull these rocker arms, oh geez, I had a brain fart. These things, your rods. I'm gonna pull the rods out, make sure everything looks good on them. They have a little hole in them, so that you can get oil passages through it. You'll make sure that those are nice and clean as well. Right now I'm just kind of wiping them off with a towel. I'm going to blow on the end of it, get all the oil out, and make sure it's a nice clean passage. And again, I'm setting them next to each one that corresponds. So this one is on this side of the rocker arm sitting in my magnetic tray. You want to make sure everything goes back where it was before. It doesn't make a big difference, but it makes enough of a difference. So you want to do that, okay? Next up, we are going to go ahead and hook up our little tool, okay? So this tool right here is called a spring compressor, okay? The spring compressor is a big metal arm, and what it's going to do is I'm going to use a bolt through it, back where those rocker arms connected, and I'm actually going to press down onto it, okay? So, goes right in here. That sits on top of the spring seat. Tighten this nut down a little bit. Oh, I think I might have one thing getting in the way here. I have to go a little bit of an angle. We'll see here in just a second. Of course, this is the hardest one, and I actually picked the hardest one for doing this part. So, hold on just a second. Just got to bend one little metal tab out of the way so that I can get access to it. Think that'll work. Nope, that's not going to work. Okay, one more second. I know you never want to do a video and have people waiting on you. So unprofessional. Luckily, I don't do this for a living, because I think I'd be failing. There we go. I think that'll work. So we're going to do one of these because the actual process of putting those rocker arms back on is exactly the same. But I'll show you how to do the rods themselves, the push rods. Because basically what you want to do is they have a little seat, and you want them sitting in that seat. If they don't sit in that seat, things are not going to work out very well. Bend this up just a touch more. Go. Okay, so as you can see, I can take this and press down, okay? But right now, everything's kind of going all in one. It's because I have no air compression to it. So, what we're going to do is hook up this air compressor. There we go. Now we have 90 PSI going to that particular cylinder. Now watch what happens when we press down on it. There we go. Now, in here are two little metal pieces, okay? Those are called your keepers. Those go in there and hook onto your valve spring and actually keep them in place onto the seat. Kind of what makes everything work right. So what I've got here is a magnet. And of course you can see it's quite a strong magnet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set it right there. I'm going to take a towel, stuff it in back here, down into the little valleys. That way, if I do by any chance drop any of those keepers, they hopefully fall down there instead of inside the engine, because then that is back to another big expense. I would have to actually take the engine apart to get those out, and I don't want to do that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to press down on this. They seem loose enough already. And I take the magnet, I try to grab a hold of them. This does take a little bit of muscle to get in there. There's one. That's the keeper right there, tiny little piece of metal. I'm going to set this one down over here in my magnetic tray so that it does not go anywhere. And like I said, here in just a minute, the air compressor is going to kick on, and it's quite loud. So there's the other one, okay? Now at this point, we can release the pressure onto the spring. Take that other keeper, put it in our metal tray, our magnetic tray, and then we're going to take this bolt back out, take this off. Here's our spring seat, and there's the spring itself. I'm going to set those over to the side, kind of inspect and make sure there's no rust or pitting or anything like that that needs to come off. And then we're going to go ahead and grab our new valve stem seal, have it ready to go. Put just a dab of oil on the top of it so that it kind of slides on easily. And these right here, sometimes will just come off with the use of a towel, but it seems like this one's going to be difficult, of course. So then you get a screwdriver or something flat, just kind of lift up on the edges just a little bit to break that seal. And then you should be able to grab a hold of them without point. Like I said, it does take a little bit of muscle for this, but there we go. Okay, so as you can see, here is our old spring seat. Here is our new one. This one is obviously a lot thicker than this one is because of usage, okay? The top of it, like I said, those don't look terrible. They really don't. These have a little bit of a groove in them, so hopefully that will actually help seal up a little bit better. And then when you go to put them on, it comes with this little plastic sleeve, okay? You want to take that plastic sleeve and put it over the valve stem before, like I said, there it goes. Okay, so you want to take that valve guide, the little plastic piece that comes with them, place it right over on top of it like that, and then you just press down, and when you go all the way down, all the way, if it's coming up, be sure to press hard. I want that seated all the way down against the head, okay? If you don't have it seated all the way down, you're not going to get a good seal. If you don't get a good seal, you're just going to be right back to burning oil like you did before. Next, because this is usually slick, came off this time, but it's usually slick, and it's harder to get off, I use a towel and it kind of helps grab a hold of it. Put our little plastic piece over to the side. Take our spring, our seat is there. We're going to take our tool and put it back on top. Screw it down a little bit. We don't want to go all the way. You want to have some movement with it. Okay? Now, before, when we put these keepers in the magnetic tray, I used a magnet to get them out. That's very hard to do. Oh, there we go. So using a magnet to get them back in is very hard to do. So you have to do it by hand. So what I have been doing is I have one in my hand ready to go, and then the other one in my other hand so I can grab it after this one is seated. Okay? Now start on the back side because that is the harder side. And then I go to the front side. And when you put them in, they're narrow on one end and thicker on the other. Okay, hopefully y'all can see that. There we go. You want to put the thinner side in the bottom. Look at that. There we go. One down. I'll go ahead and do the other one so y'all can see exactly how to put those rocker arms and everything back in as well, okay? I know this is probably going to be a little bit of a long video, but hey, education should never be short-handed. Getting to the back of the engine, you run into things like wiring and looms and things like that. So it does take a little bit more time doing this back cylinder, but it truly is the best view for you guys. I have no way to set it up any other place, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, now I've got my magnet ready to go. I've got my rag so that I can push this up, and here we go. Now this one did not come loose like the other one did, okay? So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna, there we go. I'm gonna use a screwdriver and move them around, and that loosens them up. And it didn't take much, it just took one tiny little push to get those to move. Some of the other ones earlier were not quite so easy. They did take a little bit more because they had some curmudgeon. And yes, I said curmudgeon. One day, you young folk will appreciate the word curmudgeon. And there's the other keeper. Goes back into the magnetic tray. Get that off of some things here. I'm going to have to use my wrench here and get that one out because unfortunately the springs come up a little bit higher and it can trap you against other things if you're not prepared. And guess what? I was not prepared. So we're going to take this back out. Get that out of the way. I have my plastic sleeve ready to go. Take the spring out. This one looks in good shape as well. So far all of them have looked in good shape. There's one that had a little bit of a crusty spot, but it wasn't bad. And then that one came out without any kind of forcing with a screwdriver or anything. So that one's good to go. Take our plastic sleeve. Have it in our hand, wipe this off, make sure everything looks clean. If you have any burrs or anything like that on your head, when you put these on, it's going to tear it up, okay? So you need to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. That way you don't tear up these seals and create more work for yourself later, okay? Again, larger part down, seat it over the top, push down hard. All the way down. It is seated. Perfect. Okay, that one did not come out like I wanted it to. So we're going to go back, use the rag, and boom, there's a little plastic sleeve. Now since that's the last one, I won't need that anymore. We're going to go ahead and put, spring first. Come on, Goofy. Spring first. Keeper. Up, there we go. Just like before, got one keeper in this hand, one in this hand. This hand is going to be operating the tool to press it down. The other hand is going to be working on the first keeper and putting it on this side. This side is the harder side, so you can have your hand ready to go. That side's the easier side, okay? And my tool is basically a piece of metal bar. So it's not exactly the most comfortable thing in the world to work with, but it functions. And it wasn't terribly expensive. Both keepers in, ready to go. Unscrew our tool. Perfect. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the air because I don't need it anymore. So you're going to hear a big old whoosh of air coming from that cylinder, okay? And there we go. And look at that. Everything is in place, and now we're not going to have the air compressor making noise and ticking me off. Okay, now first things first, you want to make sure, did you check your rods to make sure that they were clean? If you did, then you are good to go to put them in. Now, in the bottom down here, you have two little cups, okay? I'm going to try to show you those cups real quick here. Okay, you see that down there? That is one of the cups. This rod is rounded. Okay, see how it's rounded? It looks a little ugly, but it's, you know, it's just old. Function's still just the same. Okay, both of them are rounded. So when you actually put everything down, this is allowed to kind of move a little bit. So when you put these in, don't just throw them in willy-nilly. That one hit it. If you do that right there, that's not good. Okay, luckily I have already done that. So I just use my handy dandy magnet and get it out. Let me get to a little bit better angle here. And there we go. Magnets are fantastic. Well, until you do it again. All right, so now that I showed you what not to do, we're gonna go back and do it again, but this time the right way. Pay attention to what you're doing. Put this down in there, and you wanna hit that cup. Okay, so number one is in the cup. And this is what I was talking about, orientation. That rod was on that side of the cylinder. This rod's on this side. See how it's got the little hole? See how it's clean through there? That means oil will pass through. That's what we want it to do. Sometimes you can kind of feel for the cup, and then you can check. And bingo. We are both in the cup. Set you back up over here. Make sure everything's good. No tripod is so unprofessional. Ah, there we go. Okay. Now we have our rods in. Now we're going to put our rockers back in, and they go just like this. You want to make sure to put your rods back in their little seats on the rockers. And start your screws by hand, or bolts by hand rather. If you cross thread something on this, it means a new head, and you're basically doing a head gasket repair. Let's not do that, okay? It's never fun. I've done it way too many times on my old Ford Ranger. I don't want to do it anymore unless I have to. Okay, so now that is back on. We're going to use our wrench and get them close. Now these tighten down to 19 foot-pound, okay? 19 foot-pound is their torque spec. If you have a torque spec, follow it. It's there for a reason, and you'll kick yourself if you don't. Just like your wheels. Don't use impacts on your wheels. Use a torque wrench. And yes, it is July the 5th, so we have fireworks. Okay, now here's my torque wrench. This particular torque wrench is an inch-pound torque wrench because mine stops at 19 for my foot-pound torque wrench. So, with that being said, I have it set to 228 inch-pounds, which is equal to 19 foot-pounds. Math, it does get you places. Okay, now when we're torquing down, you don't want to just kind of give little things like that. You want to actually follow through with it, because if you torque and it meets right where it is, right where that little click is, and there we go. That doesn't feel right. Go all the way through it. Push past it a little bit. Okay? The torque wrench is designed to stop you, so you're not going to have a big difference with that. Anytime you torque, you want to get a nice good swing, just like that. Okay? And now, all we have to do is then take our little tube out. Just like that. And then we're ready to put our spark plug back in. Hook all the spark plugs back up. And then put our valve cover on, which is that wonderful thing here. That will sit right on top, and that's what covers everything. It keeps the oil from splashing all over the place. So, all cylinders are done. They have all new guide seals, or valve guide seals, okay? And if you guys want to be able to do this yourself, as you can see, it's not as hard as you think. It does take time. It does have a little bit of a scariness because you can drop things just like that rod I showed you. You can drop the keepers, which are much harder to get. You know, you've got a pretty good little valley down there where these can all fall down there. If you can't get it, guess what? You're taking the head off. So just take your time, don't get in a rush, and everything will be all right. Y'all have a good one. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something.